This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here. Now, you may have found yourself feeling very pressured in a work-related environment, and that might be because of deadlines, certain kind of objectives that you have to do. Now, the client that I was working with had those things, but mainly it was because they'd moved into a new role, into a very competitive culture and environment, but it was kind of chaotic and they didn't really have the onboarding, the structure, the systems, the training, and yet still expected to get results, even if the results weren't clearly defined. So very ambiguous things like prove yourself and get some quick wins, very ambiguous things that didn't really mean anything. So they felt the pressure, didn't really have the clarity in their systems, and most of the pressure was not coming from others, it was coming from themselves, because their background was that in most environments, they could have the resources that they need to understand things, and therefore that pressure they would put on themselves to thrive was intrinsic rather than extrinsic. But this was a different situation. They'd moved into a complex organization, quite political in many regards, and therefore lots of the variables were outside of their control. Sometimes they would have to seek clarity as to what they could do or not do, or understand systems that they'd never used before. And therefore, it wasn't possible for them to put all that pressure they were putting on themselves wasn't really helping. It was just stressing them out, and that was leading to more procrastination and self-doubt. So if you can relate to the idea of feeling like an imposter or feeling pressure to succeed but not know what you're doing, this session helps, because rather than going from having the pressure to thrive, it actually seeks permission to thrive. And that permission means actually doing what's necessary first. Now, there's 2 key metaphors in this session. One is the metaphor of a foundation. So most people know that if you build a house on something which doesn't have proper foundations, you can build it, but it's going to start crumbling down very, very quickly. The foundation is crucial. With a strong foundation, you could build something huge and impactful. Without that foundation, you can't really do that. Now, the second metaphor is about a bridge. If you imagine a very fast-moving river, and on the other side of that river is this wonderful place that represents thriving. Now, if you just go straight into the river, you might be splashing around and not really making much progress. You're fighting the currents. But if you take the time to build the bridge, then actually not only you can get across, but actually you can make it easier for other people to get to the same place where you're trying to get to as well. So if you can relate to this feeling of feeling pressured, but without really giving yourself permission to do what's necessary to actually get good and competent, then you might really resonate with this. Now, it was created for a particular client in a particular situation, quite a complex global political organization. That might not be your context. So if you do want a bespoke session created and customized just for you, there will be a link in the description, but also on my website, adamcox.co.uk, where you can book a free consultation call to explore working with me. The other thing to bear in mind is that normally most of my sessions are recorded in my studio. I was traveling at the point where I did this, so you're actually going to see me in an apartment in Portugal, and the audio quality was actually recorded on my portable audio there rather than this kind of studio mic. So it might sound a little bit different than the normal episodes. Bear that in mind. For now, though, find a quiet, comfortable place where you won't be distracted or disturbed. Relax and enjoy the session. Take a deep breath in, and as you breathe in a resourceful feeling of calm and relaxation, and as you exhale, just allow any feelings of worry, stress, or tension to feel like it's leaving your body in your outward breath. That's it. Breathing in relaxation and exhaling tension. And just notice with your eyes closed how much easier it becomes to focus on the sound of my voice as you continue to breathe in that resourceful feeling of calm and relaxation, and as you exhale, feeling that every outward breath releases even more of that tension. I want you to scan your body for any clues of tension in the jaw, the neck, or the shoulders. That's it. And as you breathe in, notice you're breathing in a warm color of relaxation, which is finding its way to those parts of your body that contain tension. Imagine it melting away any tension in your body. And then on the outward breath, just allow yourself to feel what it would feel like if that tension was melting away and then leaving your body in your outward breath. That's it. Each breath taking you deeper and deeper relaxed. In fact, the deeper you breathe, the more relaxed you feel. And the more relaxed you feel, the deeper you breathe. Each breath takes you deeper and deeper than the previous breath. And the more relaxed you feel, the more your imagination awakens. And I want you to imagine what it would feel like to be drawing a picture of the Spanish countryside. Maybe it's trees and grass or beaches. And I want you to imagine you're creating a vibrant, colorful picture of Spanish nature. And I want you to imagine that how you describe it on that canvas or that paper doesn't have to be what it actually is like. It's just your representation. And when you've created something that feels like Spain, I want you to imagine what it would feel like to step into the picture and imagine what it would feel like if suddenly you were there in Spain. And I want you to connect to the temperature. Maybe there's blue skies and sunshine. But I want you to imagine wide open spaces. No one else around, just you. And while you're there, take a slow breath in and a much longer breath out. And as you breathe out, I wonder if you can imagine releasing that subtle pressure that you've been carrying. You know the one. You've been building up that pressure. But imagine every outward breath is now a release valve. That every time you breathe out, the pressure is being released. And what you're releasing is pressure, not your ambition, not your standards, just the pressure. Another breath in, and as you exhale, just imagine your shoulders loosening. Because here, in this moment, in this artistic Spain where you belong right now, you don't need to perform. No KPIs to hit, no objectives, no onboarding, just presence. Breathing in and breathing out. In fact, you don't need to prove anything in this moment. Just breathing, just being in this moment. And with each breath, notice how the mind begins to slow down. As if the constant internal commentary begins to quiet. Because this time isn't about performance. No objectives. Nothing you need to do. Just about connection. And I wonder if you can find that voice, not someone else's voice, but your voice, that links to that pressure. Maybe it says something like, you should already know this. You shouldn't need to ask for help. Thriving means independence. And I want you to observe that voice. Maybe it has a location, a tonality, maybe it's pushy, demanding. Just notice it. And I want you to be grateful for that part. Because in so many areas of your life, that demanding part has served you well. In fact, in any environment where you control the majority of the variables, that part is an ally. But the same part that thrives in one environment may struggle in another. Mozart may be a genius on the piano, but struggle to draw. And Miro could create incredible works of art, but maybe playing football or climbing a rock face wouldn't play him to his strengths there. And what if this part that works so well when you're in control just piles on the pressure in environments where you need clarity, you need understanding, you need to know the systems. And I want you to ask yourself, where did that voice come from? Was it linked to a belief, a time in childhood, a time when you had to prove yourself? And want you to get a sense that no architect is expected to build without solid foundations, and no leader can be expected to govern without structure, and no ambassador can thrive without knowing the lay of the land and gathering intelligence. And what if what you've been calling pressure is actually your high standards, distorted by urgency? What if you're not behind? You're just laying the foundations in which to thrive. And I want you to imagine there in Spain, you're on a large open piece of land, maybe fields, but wide open spaces. And I want you to get a sense that this land represents your role. Expansive, important, high stakes. You want to build a tower, something that can be seen for miles around. But what if instead of rushing to build the tower, you realize that that big tower built on weak foundations will crumble very soon, and you'd rather build something that lasts, that impacts, that does what you want it to do. So imagine kneeling down there in that open land, and just imagine what laying foundations would feel like. Maybe it's digging deep. Maybe it's adding cement. Maybe foundation stones. And what if each foundation stone represents something powerful, something necessary? Things like clarity, clearly defined KPIs, process understanding, delegation structure, strategic reconnaissance. And you notice something. Nobody really admires the foundations. The biggest skyscrapers and towers and structures. Those foundations are ignored. But without the strong, deep foundations, that impressive structure would not exist. And I want you to congratulate yourself on the foundations that you've laid so far. And what if rather than rushing to build the tower, you're keen to be diligent, thorough, focused on laying those deep, strong foundations. Reminding yourself that foundations aren't visible from the outside, but they determine everything that stands above. Thriving is not about paddling harder in deep water, just staying above the surface. It's about building something stable enough that you no longer need to paddle. So imagine each stone you place in that foundation feels calm, deliberate, intentional. You are not reacting, and you're not behind. You are constructing, and construction requires time. It requires sequencing. It requires patience. And that patience is not weakness. Consider it executive maturity. And I wonder if you can imagine the foundations are built. And I want you to imagine building a huge tower upon those foundations. Imagine it's a tower that could contain a gallery. You could admire the gallery and the structure, but only when the foundations are solid. And then when you leave the gallery, there in that expansive land in Spain, I want you to notice something ahead of you. A river, a deep, fast-running water. And that river represents the culture, fast-moving, competitive, swirling, chaotic, unpredictable. And on the other side of that river, we can just call it a magical land called thriving. And you can see it clearly. You can see that calm authority, confident decision-making, strategic engagement, not frantic energy, just composed leadership. And instead of diving into the river, you begin building a bridge. Each plank is something practical. Maybe part of that bridge is clarifying expectations, figuring out what success even looks like. Maybe it's about asking intelligent questions from that place of curiosity, or treating and learning new systems like reconnaissance. And each time, a bit more of that bridge is built. Consider leading your team through structure. And what if so many other people think they're thriving when they're just splashing around in the river? Wouldn't it make sense that when you build that bridge, it's the kind of bridge that means that future people in your organization don't have to splash around in the water. They could just follow the pathway on the bridge that you have built. That is structure, that is legacy. And I want you to get a sense of what that bridge would look like. Is it a creative bridge? Is it a simple bridge? Is it mechanical or wooden? Get a sense of what that bridge looks like. And then imagine crossing the river on that bridge. And get a feeling of how stable, strong, solid and structured it feels. And I want you to get a sense that too many people in the past were so keen to get to the other side. Instead of building a bridge, they just jumped straight into the river. But that river has got fast currents. And sometimes it isn't sink or swim. It's just frantic splashing about that feels like success, but the main things don't get done. And what if by building a bridge you avoid the burnout for those people that were so keen to thrive, they never figured out how to avoid that wasted energy of fighting the currents of the river. Each time you take a step over the bridge, the distance between where you are and where you want to be becomes smaller. And you don't need to swim, and you don't need to struggle. You simply build your own way across. Because giving yourself permission to thrive is not a leap, it's a sequence. And every time you choose clarity over pressure, you're taking another step across that bridge. And I wonder if you could take a pause halfway across that bridge. Reflect on something perhaps that you needed to fully appreciate. You were never incapable and never behind. You were just navigating ambiguity without the necessary structure or clarity. And that's not a character flaw. That's an environmental variable. So as you stand on the bridge looking out at what thriving looks like, but also colleagues splashing about in the fast-moving river, hear that same voice that was piling on the pressure. Say these words. Repeat internally after me. I give myself permission to build. I give myself permission to learn. I give myself permission to ask. And I give myself permission to thrive on my timeline. And maybe you can already notice how different that feels compared to I must prove myself. Because pressure contracts and permission expands. And what if expansion is the very place where leadership lives? If you wanted something predictable and known, you would have stayed where you were before. You wanted this challenge, and you have found the challenge. But let's shift from feeling a pressure to thrive to giving yourself permission to thrive. So now continue walking across the bridge and finally step onto the other side. And I want you to get a feeling that thriving doesn't feel dramatic. No balloons and a round of applause. Just notice that when you're thriving, it actually feels stable. It feels clear. You notice that you still ask questions, but from a position of refinement, clarifying distinctions. You're still learning, but most of the learning has been done. Now it's the icing on the cake and not the cake itself. You still face unknowns, but they're no longer a threat that blindsides you. They feel like something manageable that enhances your ability to become even more valuable and resilient. I want you to get a sense that even if you're traveling halfway across the world, consider it as reconnaissance rather than a do-or-die high-stakes situation. You can treat the KPIs as architecture, that blueprint of what it would take to build that structure, that tower. And you can treat micromanagement as information about system instability, not your worth. What if the person you're learning from is still splashing around in the river because they never built the bridge or laid the foundations to give themselves permission to thrive? Because thriving was never about not needing support. Thriving is about knowing what to build and building it deliberately. You're not paddling or splashing around in the water anymore. You are laying the foundations, building the bridge. You are designing that future. So let's think about that future. Imagine a moment in the near future, maybe days, weeks, or months away. Think about speaking to that boss, that management, calm, clear, structured. Imagine having conversations where you're discussing objectives and outcomes, not from insecurity, but from authority, clarity. Imagine yourself meeting important people in different parts of the world, curious, observant, strategic. You're not trying to prove you belong. You're finding those synergistic, strategic relationships. You are opening doors. See that future version of you, comfortable in your own skin, knowing your worth, knowing you belong, because you are building something valuable, and valuable things need to be built right on strong foundations. So as you breathe in and breathe out, just allow the foundations, the bridge, and the other side to integrate. Maybe you can feel shifts, changes in energy, posture, movement in your body. Give permission for your nervous system to align with this new timeline. You build the foundations first, and then you build something impressive on top. You build the bridge first, and then on the other side, that's where you thrive. And maybe you can feel that sense of less urgency, more steadiness. Pressure is optional. Construction is intentional. And thriving, that is architectural. You can only thrive when you've built those foundations that are strong. And you are allowed to build, and you are allowed to thrive. So take one deep, slow breath in, and as you exhale, release any remaining pressure, and just get a sense that it feels winnable. Get a sense of what building that bridge and laying those foundations mean in your world. What do you need to know that you don't know yet? What questions does it make sense to ask? And how can you find shortcuts to learn what you would benefit from knowing? And all of those things are achievable. And all of those things take place one brick or one step at a time. And when your unconscious has integrated these new concepts, timelines, and ways of thinking into your life and your reality, let me know by nodding your head. That's it. And notice, you still have permission to thrive, but it works on your timelines now. So take a deep breath in and exhale. Then an even deeper breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Just wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, connect and calibrate into the here and the now. As I now count from 1 to 10 to awaken you, you will return from the other side, from the bridge, from the open land of Spain, back through the picture, back into your reality, taking all these changes with you. Starting to count. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of The Hypnotist. If you've enjoyed this episode or got some value from it, please give it a 5-star rating and review. And maybe you know someone that would also benefit from this particular episode, in which case share the episode with them so they can also get the benefit too. And if you would like to listen to this episode where it's just the hypnosis, so no intro, no outro, no explanation, just the hypnosis and completely ad-free, there will be a link in the description where you can subscribe at a very low cost and only get access to the hypnosis. So if that's of interest, please check that out. Thank you again for being a regular listener of The Hypnotist, and I'll see you again soon for more.